JC here again for retirecheap.asia. Actually, I'm here with somebody that's corresponded with me for, geez, since I started the thing almost on YouTube. And Tim and Jen live in Thailand. How long have you lived here now?
We've been here now since June.
Since June. And so what prompted you to, first of all, what prompted you to come over?
Cost of living and quality of life.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so how's it working out, the cost of living and quality of life?
Wow.
Wow.
Cost of living is probably anywhere from 75% cheaper, anywhere from 2/3 to 75% cheaper.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good average. I always say it's going to cost you 30% of what it costs you back home, as a general rule. You know, sometimes things are a little bit more than that, less than that, but as a rule, I think that's pretty much holds true. And so, how about the quality of the life? You mentioned the quality of life. How about the interaction with Thai people? You know, the Thai culture. How's that going?
I think they're very welcoming, very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, you know, generally speaking, it's you know, in the beginning, it's a little alarming that strangers will talk to you, and literally in any setting, you could be at the dentist, at the doctor's office, in a restaurant, in a public place like a park here, and you could strike up a conversation with a Thai person, and they really want to talk to you.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't have a hidden agenda. So it's you know, America's changed a lot. People are a lot more reserved and a lot more protective.
Yeah.
You know, don't talk to strangers is the basic rule in America.
I like the choice of words protective, not fearful.
Yeah.
I always use the word fearful, but protective is actually probably a better word.
Yeah.
Speaking of striking up conversations in the doctor's office, Tim actually saw the video I did about health and colonoscopies and stuff like that, and said, you know, hey, how old are you now?
53.
53, and said, okay, it's time to do this. And you'd actually had some background in what's the word I want to use? You know, some health scares, I should say.
Previous medical history.
Previous medical history in that area.
Yeah.
Okay, so living over here and seeing how I said it's going to be inexpensive to come, and you're going to get a good quality of treatment for a very small cost. You came up to Chiang Mai.
Right.
You don't live in Chiang Mai, but you came up here to check this out. And so I want to know, let everybody know, you know, because it's not just me saying, hey, it's cheap, come on up, you know, and then they come up and they go, no, this was a terrible experience. I want other people to actually hear, you know, people that come up and what your experience has been with the cost and the treatment and those kinds of things. So just go through it. I know I caused a little bit of a challenge when you first came up because I had this done, and I actually saw a certain doctor in a certain office, and that didn't work out. So it delayed your initial visit. You actually had 2 visits, and you get 1 more for a follow-up. So there'll be 3 visits. So I delayed the first one by an hour or 2. It cost you a little extra time. But once you got to the right department and everything, you're hanging out with Thai people. And describe the first visit and what happened real quick. And then you actually had the colonoscopy done yesterday.
Yes.
And so we just want to know about the treatment by Thai people and the costs and how you feel about it.
Sure. So in terms of the first visit, which was really to schedule the appointment, to get the doctor's consultation, explain why I needed the colonoscopy, and all of that, you know, it's very administrative here. You're sent to one line to fill out a form, and then another line to get your blood pressure checked, and so you have to get past that point. The hospital here is a government hospital, so it's for the common people. It's not a private hospital. It's not Stanford University hospital, but you know, it was as maybe I'd describe it as being at the DMV. So
yeah, it's a good analogy.
Yeah, it went well. We went through everything. The doctor consultation was a little bit interesting because in America, everything is about preventative health care. Mm-hmm. And so the first thing they asked me was, well, why do you want this? You know, almost like, why would you want to have this done?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So,
that's exactly right.
Yeah, and I think the Thai people don't go to the hospital until they're sick. Mm-hmm. So this was preventative, you know, preventative stuff, a test. And so once I explained it, the doctor was a lady, she understood, she took down my medical history, and ultimately produced a form and an appointment for me that was very professional, and it was mostly Thai with a little bit of English. She gave me all the information about the pre-colonoscopy procedures. And I've had this done, unfortunately, in America 4 times already, so this is my 5th time.
So you're a veteran at this. You're speaking from experience. Yeah. You can definitely compare.
I'm not proud of this. Nobody wants a colonoscopy.
But you'll be able to compare prices and treatment based on your experience. It's a good thing.
Yeah, and it's not just, I mean, the procedures were all very much like the U.S., except for the fact that it's Thailand and a lot of the documents were in Thai, but the doctor was very, very attentive to what my medical history was, very thorough to explain to me what I needed to do for the appointment, where to go, what would happen, how to prepare for it, and she also affirmed that I understood everything. And so I wasn't blasted out of there in 3.5 minutes.
That's right.
Time's up, you gotta go. I felt like I could be there as long as it took until I was comfortable before I had to leave. And so we spent about a half a day there to go through that entire process, culminating in me getting the appointment for a month later to come back here, and for me to get the prescription for the medication you have to take the day before to flush out your colon. So that was part 1.
Okay. And so part 2 happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And so you showed up for your appointment. You did the treatment to clean yourself out, and then so you showed up and describe the treatment that you got and the cost of what it cost you to do it.
Okay. So starting from getting to the hospital at 9 o'clock in the morning, we were told where to go, the 5th floor of this hospital. We get there, and then right away, it's a large hospital. So imagine any of the biggest hospitals in America. These aren't like medical clinics. It's a huge hospital. It's, if you think when you come to Thailand, you're sort of going to a witch doctor out in some village in a jungle. No, it's a big city, big hospital.
And this is tied to the university.
Tied to the university. So it's actually a huge medical complex.
That's right.
So it has all the look and feel of basically America, except it's 100% Asian people, basically, with a few foreigners, Falungs running around. We get to the 5th floor, and right away, didn't have a clue where to go. And so we found the best approach is it's kind of like the Amazing Race. You just, every 10 feet, you ask another nurse, and ultimately they walked us right to where we needed to go.
But also the other patient actually helped us too. We were not sure which room to go to, but there's 2 other people waiting in the patient room. They're Thai, and they're telling us, because they speak English, they said, put the paper right there. So they're coaching us along with all the nurses, so you feel like you're welcome there as well.
Yeah. Even though you're a foreigner, you feel welcome there, don't you?
Yeah, you do. And actually, the check-in was sort of funny because in old accounting days, if you have a sheet of paper, you can put it on a metal spindle like that. That was check-in. So I took my appointment slip,
stuck it on the queue.
Yeah, stuck it on the queue. And so then we sat down by this other couple, Thai couple, and it was a man and his sister, and the man's wife was having her colonoscopy done. So there were 2 double doors, like a ward next to where we were sitting. So I sort of thought that was the staging room. I didn't realize that was really where all the colonoscopies were happening. More about that in a minute.
Yeah.
So we sat there and we talked to them, and they were really just enormously comforting. They were trying to explain to us what was going to happen. It's going to be okay. It wouldn't be painful. And I thought,
and you actually got a sedative as well. Now, when I had it done, I didn't have a sedative. I just got to watch the screen as it was taking place, and it really wasn't that uncomfortable for me. But I know you had a little trepidation about this because you've had it done before.
Sure.
So you went for an actually IV sedation, which you said didn't knock you out completely, but made you feel more relaxed with the procedure.
Right.
And how were the doctors and the nurses professional, and how did they treat you as a person? I mean,
Sure.
Did they run you in and run you out as a number, or what?
Well, the way it sort of got conducted was a nurse came out and basically, handed me a sheet and said, go to this other, basically, bathroom and disrobe from the waist down. So I did all that, and literally came back to the hallway where everybody was waiting, wearing my sheet. And then she took me through the double doors, and if you want to know from a Western perspective what's different, is in the West, privacy is really, really protected. And so, you know, here I am with my sheet. I'm kind of walking around with all these other people. And by the way, when your colonoscopy finished, for the people that were through those double doors in what I thought was that sort of staging area, they would push you out on a gurney, because you'd still be asleep, and leave you in the hallway with your family. So it was, I wouldn't call it the most private thing, because we were all watching people recover.
Why do you need to sleep in private? I mean, your family's there to comfort you in the hallway. I mean, you know, and that's why it's cheap. You don't get a private room. Now, having said that, you had this thing about, you know, in a public area. I was at the same hospital. I don't know, because I went in maybe to a surgeon to start with.
Yeah.
And mine was all private. The colonoscopy was done in a private room. There was nobody else in the room. And so my experience was a little bit different than yours. So
yeah.
I don't know which one to tell people to expect. Probably
sure.
what you got more than what I got.
Yeah. And so when I went through those double doors,
okay, well, we only have, you know, I'm going to run out of battery and tape if we go too long with this, and people will get bored with it. But what I want, the point of it is, okay, did you feel taken care of, or were you just pushed through as a number?
No, absolutely taken care of. From the minute I got my IV, and, you know, truthfully, going through sedation. Here I am, I'm in a foreign country, and I mean, this is not a minor procedure, because I'm sedated. They're going to do this colonoscopy, which actually can be dangerous. They can perforate your colon. It's a serious medical procedure, and, you know, really step by step, they were not only compassionate, but they walked me through what all the steps would be. And so I never once felt like I was afraid of what was going to happen next. I knew it, and treated me with dignity, respect. The procedure was handled very professionally, and when it was finished, ultimately, I got a complete from the doctor, a follow-up consultation, a complete printout, the same as I got in the U.S., of all the different parts of my colon they inspected, photos of it, and it was really, from beginning to end, no different than in the U.S.
Okay, and so first of all, the results so far, now you're going to have pathology done as well on 3 polyps you had removed, right? You're going to have pathology as well. Now, when you came out of sedation a little bit, the doctor sat with you. Was it like, here's your paper, and check it out, and I got to go? It was written in English, right?
Yes.
Okay, and he showed you the different parts of the colon and how what the inspection was, or the diagnosis during that. And so you came up clean. You're still going to have the pathology done on 3 of these polyps, but as far as the diagnosis for your future, it's really good, right?
Yep. Clean bill of health.
And it was in English. Now compare that with the results from back home when you got your results from a colonoscopy. Was it comparable, or?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think it was identical. There was nothing lacking. It was basically, if I compared a U.S. Report to this one here, there's no difference.
And they had photos and everything on this in regards to that.
Yeah.
And now compare the treatment, everything to back home, to what you had back home, because people think that we're, again, out in rice fields here and stuff like that. And how long the doctor actually sat with you during the post procedure?
That was probably about, I don't know, about 10 minutes. But the thing that's actually the most interesting is that in the U.S., the pathology, I can't even remember how the pathology comes back to me, if it comes back in a phone call from the doctor or communication, but in this case, I have another appointment scheduled in January to come back with the doctor to go over the pathology report.
Okay, and now for the sitting down part. I hope they're sitting down. So you had the appointment, you had the procedure done, the pathology, and the sedation. And how much was the bill when you walked out of there?
3,063 baht, which is $100.
3,063 baht,
right,
which is the equivalent at this point in time to almost exactly $100.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And so the point that I try and drive home with people, that, you know, they say back home, which they don't really understand here, but back home when you hit 50, you should do this on a 4 or 5 year basis. It takes 5 years or something before a polyp can actually develop into something cancerous, they say.
Yeah.
So if you get it taken out during that time, then you're going to be okay. And so it's something that we really should do back home.
Right.
But because of the experience of going in. I mean, you know, it's just impersonal and things like that back home. And the cost is really, you know, if somebody doesn't have insurance, it's almost, you know, you look at what you can do with that kind of money back home, and it's like, yeah, no, I'll be okay. And we put these kind of things off, which this is one of the forms of cancer that are really preventable if you go through and do this. And so for $100, I mean, if somebody's living over here, you can get it done every 4 or 5 years. You know, it's a walk in the park. But for somebody that wants to come over and check this place out as far as retiring, you know, and say maybe this is right for me, they could come over and have the test done and save so much money they'd be able to stay for a month and see if this is where they want to retire. And I think that's what I try and drive home to people is, you know, get it done. You need to have it done, but also use this as a way to see if this works for you. What do you think about that? You think that's a good idea or a good strategy for people, or what?
Definitely, I think so.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, compared to the U.S., a colonoscopy in the U.S. would cost me, through my co-pays and all the little bills I would get, because I would get, not only would I get a co-pay bill, but I would get a separate bill from the pathology. My last one cost me $350. That was my piece. And then the insurance paid over $3,000.
Insurance paid over $3,000. For somebody that doesn't have insurance, that's a big hit.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a big hit.
So this was $100 to pay for everything.
Yeah.
It paid for the hospital, the doctor, the anesthesia, everything.
And so that's really important too, because if somebody comes over and lives over here, some of the times they're not going to have insurance. They'll drop their insurance, or they won't be covered. Or, you know, if they're over 65 or something, Medicaid or Medicare doesn't cover them over here. But they can still go in for $100 and get it done.
Sure.
And so that's something I really need to, people with this thing, oh, I can't give up my insurance, my Medicare. And you all actually get insurance here for about $1,000 a year, and so you're covered for major incidents. But as far as most things are concerned here, it's easy to go in and get this done, whether it's preventative, which we're all on top of, you know, in our country. You know, it's driven home to us that you should prevent the things before, you know, they happen. Yeah. But over here, it's like, even if it's a necessity, you can go in, or if it's preventable, you can go in and get these tests. So I'm happy for the result. I'm really happy that the result turned out fine. It's really a good thing. And I always like meeting you up here, catching up, and it's good to see you again, Jen. And you'll be back in January for your pathology, but basically it was just benign polyps. I'm sure that's what it's going to come back as, because you've had they've only been there a very short amount of time. Right. So that's probably what the diagnosis on those, or the pathology, will come back, and I'm real happy about that. And I want to thank you for sharing your story. You know, the part we sort of cut out was that, you know, when he was getting it done, there were these little cubicles and the curtains weren't drawn all the way, so it was like, you know, but again, for $100, I mean, it's really hard to say anything was bad about the experience. I mean, when you come out of there knowing that you're healthy and it'll cost you $100 to find that out, I think that's a great experience for somebody to go to experience as well. So again, thank you for joining me again for this, and I'm actually going to cut in some of the video we had from the initial visit so they can see, as you know, the environment that you were in and stuff like that. Sure. But again, thanks, and hope to see you back again. And for everybody watching, you want to join me? Remember, there's always an option. That's right.